Yes,
Hey, girl,
uh,
hey. It's been a while.
has it? We've been
Yes.
talking. It's been a while from recording.
Yeah, for recording.
We've been chatting. We've been chatting about a
Yeah,
lot
no,
of
I wasn't
things.
I wasn't talking about us. I was talking about
Oh,
this
to see if we remember
actual
how to do it.
way of converse. Welcome back. Welcome back, community. I hope y'all are still out there. I hope you guys are feeling excited. And grateful for all of those that stuck with us and are back. Even though we've been away. I know they was mad seeing that I know they was mad when that reprise walked into the room. They saw that shit every week. What?
I want to take some time though to make sure there were a couple people who were like, "Are you guys ever coming back?" And I was like, "Wait a minute, we gave an update, so I want to make sure people know that they're in yes, we did reprises, but within those there were new episodes that were released. There was one with just me, there was one with Shanti and I think one before that. So we weren't just gone, and I want to make sure that those episodes, people are aware of. So just highlighting that. Felt bad, like damn, they was like reprise, whatever. Check back in a month.
Listen, some podcasts are just seasonal. You know what I mean? You only get 6, 8, whatever. But
True.
yeah, so we're at the end of the summer. We've basically been away this summer. On my personal side, a lot of things have been happening. I think the most significant for me is how much I've had to strip down with Sable. I feel like I'm back to square one. I started by myself, being like the only employee doing all of the things, and I find myself back to that, which is an ebb and flow in business as well. But I'm trying to fight the discouragement that I inevitably feel and the overwhelm that I inevitably feel. But I think that on the flip side, it's an opportunity to kind of reset, reconsider some things. So there's a lot, I guess the theme for me is a lot of resetting, reconsidering of things. And that has forced me to be very busy. Again, I'm doing all of the shipping, everything, every single part is back on me. But I think I recently went to a friend's music show. Shout out to the New School Collective in Philly. Shout out to Black Butterfly. And I was watching her perform, and I had just come back from DC that same day, and I had just come back from vending the night before, the weekend before. So there was feeling very busy, feeling tired, but then also watching these artists or these people that are like creating, just leading creative lives, and knowing the backstory of how hard she's been hustling and how she's just been trying to move forward, and then watching the magic that was produced on that show and the energy that she created. And I just felt really grateful of like, oh, okay, this is the reward, this is the possibility, this is the thing that I'm trying to build grit on gratitude versus grit on just like sheer will. I have to keep going, but more like, no, I'm grateful for all that I have, that I've created, the community, and from a place of gratitude rather than just like grind.
You saw that on Instagram?
No, but I should. I'm gonna make a t-shirt. Is that a thing?
That's a thing. I was like,
Is
she
it?
saw that on a meme. Where'd
Oh
she get
no,
that from?
I never saw
That's a
that,
good
but
play on word. Yeah.
alliteration. Is that alliteration? Onomatopoeia. One of them things.
It's alliteration. Great
One of them
gratitude, GG.
things. So Yeah, that's just been a theme. I also want to invite everybody in collaboration with my sister Zelik Jewelry, Zelik. You should check out her shit now. She's an amazing artisan and jewelry maker. She, along with the Sable Collective, are doing a raffle for a family in Gaza that my mom has actually had been in contact with for like nearly 10 years, but they just reconnected and they are in dire need, as we all know, of support. And it feels very, very personal because I've heard about them. They have 5 boys. They're a very young couple. They're probably a little bit younger than I. She's taking care of her elderly mother. Just their home is completely in rubbles.
God.
They're very stressed. Just I don't want to say all the things, but the things that she's sharing with my mom in a very graceful way, it just kind of put some fire under my ass to try to get as much money to support these people so that they get the basics of just food for their kids and shoes
How
on
would
their
she
feet
get it? How does
through
that work?
PayPal. So, and that's a
Oh,
whole
and
other
she would be able
story.
to access it and like
That's a
the
whole other
resources.
story.
So,
I feel like when
the
shit hits
infrastructure.
people still figure shit out, so there's like a black market of folks that do have access to that, so then everybody has to get a cut of the money that's supposed to go to one family, if that makes sense. But it's like also those people that are taking a cut probably need it as well, so that's what we were talking about and trying to consider. But I was like, any way that I can get this money to this family. But the way that you can support is to go to www.thesablecollective.com. There is you can purchase a raffle ticket that would include you in a raffle of $150 gift certificate from from Zelik Jewelry, and a $250 gift certificate to the Sable Collective. And most importantly, you're just supporting this individual family that we have an actual personal connection to. So please consider that. I'll send a link in the bio as well.
But
that's it.
now. I just got 10 raffle tickets.
Oh, you sweet being.
I ain't got no money. Don't ask me for nothing.
They really
Somebody
need
asked
it
me for
though.
something. Meanwhile, I got a parking ticket I'm staring at, but I'm gonna do this.
They really need it.
I know.
They really need it.
Boom, done. I think
Thank you,
that works.
Internet. Yes, it did. I just gotta
Cha-ching.
my nigga.
All right. Well, yes, it's summer. It's over. It's actually not summer. We're recording this Friday, August 30th. I actually had the day off from work. Can't even believe it. Really deserved day off.
Really deserve it.
Shanti knows that I've been calling her on the toilet crying from work. It's back to being really bad. So I'm officially looking for a new job. You heard it here first, second, and third. Resume is together. This weekend I have time dedicated to run it through all of the AI programs. Me and my therapist are working through the shame I have with the fact that I am still at this job and have been miserable for so long. But here we are. So yeah, I will say I've been having many a conversation at work, and I do see different proactive things being put into place based off of my feedback and my experience. So that's nice. And I thought about that for a second, like, maybe things will shift, but also this isn't what you want to do. So you're shifting them for the next people, and that's wonderful. Onwards, forward, go. So that's kind of my mindset right now. From what I hear, the job market is terrible, even though there's more jobs, but it'll be a journey. So we'll figure it out. I didn't have much of a summer. I looked up and was like, my body did not touch water. I hardly got into any grass or field. And the couple of things that I did do, I went to the layout here, and I didn't go to Tompkins block party once in Brooklyn. I went to PVO for about 45 minutes. And
You've
I
been
was just
inside.
like, Well, I was inside like working, or I was also like home a lot. There was
Mhm,
something that required me to be home, whether it was like to help Amanda or
mhm,
our therapy, or
mm,
I had to babysit Blue, which is ridiculous. Like just little things where I looked up and I was like, oh, every weekend is dedicated to somebody else. And
mhm.
so I was thinking about ways I could shift that, because that's been tricky. But I also realized like the couple of times I went out, I was over it. I was like, now that I'm booed up,
When you were outside, you were over
like
it.
doing a lap is not a
Uh-huh.
thing anymore. Like I'm just like, okay, we did a lap. We saw a whole bunch of people. Like I did a lap
Is
and
that
said
New
hi
York
to the same.
lingo?
Yeah, where you do it like let's lap around, like let's go for the walk, see who's here, say our hellos. Like most times you do a lap to try to be seen or to see somebody else, whatever. And I'm just like, I'm good. But those really intimate kind of summer nights where you're out with your friends, just like falling into a night or having playing spades, like I didn't have that,
Mhm.
and I missed that. So that's a little disappointing. But I'm kind of back to school, but I'm not in school.
Talk about it.
So even though work has been insane, I've really missed learning and being a scholar. And I found these old books of mine where I used to read, like I used to read a lot of biographies, and I used to read a lot of like historical texts. And I have these journals where I was taking notes, and this was on my own time. And then like the journal would turn into like a personal journal about the impact I want to have on the world, or like pulling quotes that like energize me and activate me. So I'm back. I'm doing that as much as I can. And I have my new little journal where I'm taking my notes.
Yay, that makes me so happy, and it clicks for me in a way that's like, duh,
What do you mean?
duh.
Duh, what?
I don't remember if you remember when you did your human design and
Hmm.
your like arc path or whatever, I don't know the language, but is around getting information, being a conduit of
Oh,
information
yeah.
and like yeah,
Okay.
information history
Yeah,
is your kink.
it
And
is.
I feel like with the podcast, it that's also your greatest strength. You shine through and like are teaching everybody all the things, or becoming a resource for people.
Right. So if you want to be a resource, you got to know what the you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I realized that I had reached my peak in terms of like what I could share. Like I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
learning anything new. I was regurgitating stuff I'd heard. And
Mm-hmm.
so I bought I want to encourage folks, cuz since I'm the politics as usual girl, I bought this book. If you're on Patreon, you can see it. It's called What You Should Know About Politics But Don't. A Nonpartisan Guide to the Issues That Matter by Jessamine Conrad. And this book is really, you should get it. It's
I
really
need it.
good because it's literally just a guide. It's bipartisan. It's Barack Obama and Bob Dole are on the cover, endorsing it. Um, it's just an invaluable guide of how government works here. And it gives some historical context for
It's like
things.
breakdown 101, like
Yeah.
Congress. Okay. Okay. Wow.
It's like my notes are like, what's a Democrat? What's a Republican? Um, what's a conservative versus a Republican?
Like historically
Independent,
speaking, too. It shows like the.
libertarian.
Okay.
Hmm. and
Wow.
and how things have progressed, populist, so all those things, it's very interesting. So I'm learning that, and I'm encouraging folks to read it. If not, I'll be on here blabbing about it. I have an announcement.
Uh oh.
Blue is no longer here with me. She's here with us as in the world. Blue lives with my mother officially. um it's so weird to say that. It's weird to be in my apartment and she's not here. Blue chose her. This wasn't my decision. This was Blue's decision. And it was loud and clear where Blue wanted to be. And it was not here in Brooklyn with me. So They are having a blast, even though my mom is getting a little overwhelmed. She called me she FaceTimed me from the bathroom. She was hiding in the bathroom and she goes, "She's stalking me." And I heard Blue outside screaming. And then she kind of stopped. And then my mom opened the door. She's like, "Look." And Blue was like staring at her, waiting for her.
Which is crazy because Blue I never seen Blue's energy like that. So
Stalking her.
ever. She said, "That's my mother. That's my grandmother."
This might be her mom. They're made for each other. So Blue content, it's going to be far and few in between, everybody.
No, you got to keep it up. Your mom should actually call in with updates about Blue so that because the community is invested. So we should get your mom
idea
to give
because
Blue
that's all
put
she
her on
talks
notes.
about now.
All right, so that's it. So we are going to check in with Blue quarterly at least.
I'm going to tell her to leave me a voicemail so I could play it because that lady, that's all she talks about. Like, she doesn't care about me anymore. She just tell me about Blue. So that's it. I'm really considering a dog. I get Jasmine's dog again for 2 months. So we're going to see how that goes. I can't wait to see Joy. I might be more of a dog woman. I don't know. I feel like a sellout, but here we are. We're just growing and expanding.
You did the best that you could for your baby, okay?
For 14 long years. I do want to plug an event. My Aunt Barbara, my godmom, I talk about her often on here. She is getting activated, and she in Pittsburgh is behind a big event. And I'm excited for her. So I told her I would plug it here on the podcast. So all of the listeners in Pittsburgh or the Greensburg area, please check this out. It's called Your Rights Are on the Ballot. Join us for a rally for reproductive rights. This is going to be Tuesday, September 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the University of Pittsburgh, Greensburg. Special guest speaker is Sydney Etheridge, and she's a board member for Planned Parenthood. And so it should be exciting. She's working really, really hard on this with her fellow retired ladies at the YWCA. So shout out to my Aunt Barbara for getting her hands dirty.
Go ahead.
That link is going to be in the description as well for you to register. Yeah, so I'm excited for her. So more to come on that front.
Tell them Antoinette sent you.
Yeah, that would make her happy.
That would make her so happy.
That's my boo. That's her boo.
So, there were a lot of references to, if you're on Patreon, you could see a lot on Patreon. You could see our comeback.
You could see
glow.
What a mess I look.
You could see the book that Antoinette referenced. You could see us. It could be a whole experience. If you're not a patron for our Patreon, please consider it. If you're not familiar, Patreon is a membership platform in which you can consume video content. And we have all of our podcasts in video form, as well as exclusive content as well. So you get some and a little bit more. So please consider joining. It helps keep this sustainable. It helps us, similar to what I said before, it's a reward for the hard work. It helps us think that maybe we could be something. Maybe we could do something.
That like that.
Maybe we really
are. We are, not maybe.
But I mean, at the same time, we could really sustain ourselves with it, which is our ultimate goal and desire. So please consider that contribution to our dreams. And shout out to the new patron listeners who have subscribed even though we were on break. Y'all some real ones. Shout out to Whitney, Glade, Alicia, Tatiana, Key, and Mashira. And
I think her name's Alasia.
Alasia. Right? I apologize.
Shout out to Alasia.
Alasia, come through. I mean, listen, again, just like the podcast audio, Patreon, you can be watching all the way back from the very beginning. Okay, so it can be your weekly or nightly entertainment if it's so. That's your kink. So,
and I add a lot of external content from there that I end up referencing on the podcast or that I think our audience would like. So that they've liked that. I've kept that up during the break.
Full
just
experience.
Like, y'all should check this out. So
wonderful. All right. Well, With that,
Let's
we're going
take
to
a
take a
break.
little break. After these messages, we'll be right back.
Good time. All right, how you feel? You feel good?
Yeah.
Okay.
How you feel? Okay.
I just wish I would have did my hair curly, but everything's fine. I was cutting the ends.
A lady Libra.
How much was that? I didn't get a receipt. I didn't know what the tax was. Everybody,
Where
tell
are
me later.
you? I just
What
lost you. Oh, there you are.
Ready? Set.
How much was what?
That donation joint. Was there
Should
tax
be
on there?
Mm-mm.
Oh wow. Okay. No, I got to put it on my budget tracker. All right. Ready? And we are back. So this week, because we were gone, we were like, you know what? We could hit them with politics as usual since so many things have happened. We could get into pop culture. So many things have happened. Not that we are aware of them as much, but they've definitely probably happened. But we thought, nah, we're going to keep it personal since I know that we left being very vulnerable, being very open about the work that we were doing and how we were recommitting ourselves to our friendship, to figuring out how our friendship works within our business and partnership relationships. So here we are. We're going to get into that a bit and go into a bit more detail about what we've been up to and what we're still up to. So full transparency, we are not done. We are you in your nose a little bit? Because we're on Patreon.
I'm
Oh, okay.
twirling my
I was worried,
nose
like,
ring.
wait, I think we have to cut this out and re-record it.
I'm twirling my nose ring. If
I was
ever
like,
I mess with my nose, it's just I need a fidget. You know, I need something to touch. That's the
I
only
was
way.
like, I can't put her out here like this because she really going at it. Whatever's in there, she wants to get it. Okay. So anyway, we're going to talk about it. We're still in therapy. We're still in business coaching, and we're getting it done. So Shanti, you found our handy dandy business coach, deep feeler, Rolando. You laugh, but I was hesitant because I was like, oh, it's a deep feeler over here, but it's very necessary. I would highly recommend him, Rolando Brown. Who is Rolando?
So Rolando Brown, I first learned of just through community, just in like my actual community and network of friends, and heard of what he did for his work. Rolando is a brilliant business mind. He's helped start a lot of successful businesses, and he first had a business relationship with me, helping consult me with Sable, and I really got to learn his style and really respect the way that his mind works. He's, you have folks that are all about business, all about numbers, very pragmatic, very left brain, which I think Rolando is very much that. But then also he has this deep commitment to feelings, to being a better man, to being a better father, to being a better community member, to understanding relationally how to respect each other, and also how to like create he just texted me, also how to create processes that reflect and are in flow and alignment with how emotionally somebody may work. So I was like,
I was thinking in my head, like when I try to describe him to someone, I said he's like a deeply feeling, emotionally intelligent business coach that's connected to his humanity and leads with that. And that was
Rolando, that's your new bio, so follow that, please, okay? He's texting me in this very moment. He's probably like, hey, say this. Okay, hold on, he'll say this. But yeah, so, when I was thinking with your and my dynamic, it is very much business processes, SOPs, growth strategy, but also very much built on our relationship and our relationship dynamics and how
Mhm.
those two um, reflect and affect each other. So I immediately thought of him, that he had the capacity, that he had the business acumen, as well as just like the emotional
And he listens
IQ.
to the show, right?
He's a listener, he's a Patreon supporter.
Oh, wow.
He believes in us very much and has always says it. And yeah, so it just felt like the perfect match. And he also just like, aside from, let me put some respect on it, he's like, he has credentials and
Mhm.
is certified in this type of work of
Mhm.
facilitation. So yeah, shout out to Rolando Brown. In the description, we will share a link to his website and be connected to him. He is multifaceted, so whatever your needs are, I think he can help you or direct you to somebody that can. He's just really good people, and I consider him a friend as well. So shout out to him and the way that he's just, yeah, he's the type of nigga that will come up and, you know,
If
peace,
you're
how you
not you
doing?
can't see her. But on Patreon, yeah.
You know, he's that where you're just like, oh, oh, and he has this softness, but he has this like, I'm trying to bring language to it.
He's
He's soft,
resolute.
but he has this like 10 toes down, like,
Mhm. He's resolute.
yeah.
So Shanti and I had our 2 sessions, and our sessions are not like an hour. They're like 3 hours, probably some most times go over a little bit. Um, and work to do on our own. For every session we walked away. And the first one was really interesting. I think the first one, do you want to say what happened in the morning of the first one to set up like the energy that you were feeling, what you were coming into the space with, what I was coming into the space with?
Yeah, so we decided to meet at my studio. That was going to be like where the meeting place for all of us. Antoinette traveling up the night before, um, Rolando traveling from another. Uh, he was out of state as well,
Mm.
and so there were just like basic supplies that were requested. Markers, sticky board, just basic things to supplies for the meeting. And I think like a week prior, you know, as we were laying down time and every logistics, I agreed to be the one to pick up all of those things. And so I don't quite, it escapes me now, but I had a lot of shit going on the week and the day before the meeting. And so I remember putting my head down the night before and being like, oh, fuck, I have to go wake up Sunday morning early to go pick up these supplies from Staples. And so I mapped it out in my head that Antoinette and I were going to backtrack. Before the meeting with the three of us, Antoinette and I had decided we were going to meet to talk about some business stuff for 2 hours that was separate from the actual meeting. And so Friday night, I'm like doing the calculations of like, boo, 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 I got to meet her at 10. Okay, boom. I'm going to go to Staples at 9 and pick up all of those supplies. And, you know, that'll be fine. I Google the nearest Staples, and it gives me a time of like, I think it didn't open until 10 o'clock when Antoinette and I was supposed to meet. And so I don't remember the time, maybe like 9:45, 9:30, I text Antoinette and say, hey, can we meet in half an hour later? I have to go get the supplies. And I think actually I ended up driving all the way to Staples thinking that it was open earlier, and then I learned that it didn't open till, either way, the Staples that I thought was supposed to open on time was not actually open, which then set me back another 20, 15 minutes because then I had to travel to another Staples. And so I think it was 45 minutes past the time, half an hour past the time that she and I were supposed to meet to go over all of the taxes.
We started like an hour late.
Yeah, pull up and yeah, just feeling defensive, feeling shame around being late, feeling like, oh, we're not going to have enough time to get done what we had to do, but also feeling like I didn't know what else I could have done differently at the same time in that moment, given that I just remembered all of the supplies and how busy I was the days in the week prior. So then, yeah, I walked in tight, feeling tight. We didn't talk about it. We just sat down and started the work. The work got done, and then Rolando walked in.
I want to add that there was a point where you reached out to me and you let me know, and I was like, okay. And then you were like, can you grab like treats and stuff or things to eat, waters, yada yada yada. And I was like, I already have it. And I purposely wasn't commenting on that because I knew you were gonna be anxious about it. So I was like, okay. And I was like, I came into the session managing maybe my own frustration or whatever disappointment and like, okay, I'm sitting outside the studio for this long, whatever. So that's how we are starting our first session. So
And
that
I think
gives the
you wanted
background.
to like work out or something. You were like upset because you had wanted to work
Yeah, I
out.
mean, I had I had basically made sure that I was going to get there on time, and I had decided that I wasn't doing other things that I could have done if we were going to start later. But whatever. So that's the context of that's like what me and Shanti are bringing into our session. And then the conversation that we're having is about taxes and QuickBooks. So that's what we had to talk about before we start the session. So it's already tight. It's already like, but not no beef, right? It's like, here, I got you water. There's grapes. Da, da, da. We're just avoidant of
Mhm.
the thing. It's not,
Mhm.
it's like tight and avoidant. And I think
Mhm.
that's something that's really prevalent between the two of us. It's like my attempt to not talk about it, to reduce whatever you might be feeling, or to manage my own frustration doesn't help because then you probably feel like, she's tight or she's not talking about it. And then you are more anxious and then we're just avoidant. Like, okay, let's keep doing this thing and act
Mhm.
like nothing. There's no elephant in this room. Okay.
Mhm.
So Rolando comes in. He's very like, I can tell that he can tell that I'm a little not skeptical, but I'm just like, all right, what are we in for? Let's go. All right. And I approach things more practically and like, this is the business, this is what it is. I have my notes. I read the articles you told us to read, let's talk about it. And he's like, first, how are you feeling? First, let's define this. It was eye-opening because he asks us to define our audience, and we both defined our audience differently. And in 13 years of doing the show, we in that moment did not have a clear, and we're still working it out, a clear understanding of who our audience is. So I was like, wow, okay, that was eye-opening to me of like, wow, our foundation, our mission, our vision, our audience, like none of this stuff is completely spelled out. So that's going to automatically create cracks in the foundation, right? So then we start going into, the different things that are coming up for us, how we're feeling, what we're looking to get out of the session, what we're looking to get out of our work with him. And so things are coming up, things that we've talked about on the podcast, things we haven't talked about on the podcast publicly. And he stops us. And he's like, and we did mention this the last recording, but he stops us and he's like, I see how badly you two want to connect. Like, and he's so good at affirming you first. I see that you two are you deeply love each other, you're deeply connected to each other, and you're invested in one another. The ways in which both of you are going or are trying to connect is through correction. And that's not going to work. He was like, both of your first, I have let me get my notes from the session because I was literally, I'm talking away from the mic. I was literally writing some of the stuff that like quoting him, where he was saying, yeah, he was saying that our first like immediate response to one another is to correct. And so he then said, correction without relief is punishment.
Mm.
And so I kind of sat there. He was like, you lose closeness, you lose connection. And he was like, self correction is actually the best form of correction. And
Mm-hmm.
basically giving us tools to guide one another to the self correction without being like, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. Now, what blew my mind was all of the ways in which we correct. Because when he said that, I immediately was like, oh, he's talking to me. I'm correcting. And then when he doubled down, like, no, it's both of you. And the ways that you're doing it is a little bit differently, but both of you are missing each other and missing what each other are saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, we're okay. So then I think he can notice a shift in our body language. He mentioned like our bodies, we were forward. He kept saying like we were facing forward. So we were engaged, we were activated. And then when we started to get into the meat and potatoes of what was going on between us, we kind of like disconnected a bit and retreated. And so he had us sit facing one another. He was like, you can't, he was like, you have to look at one another when you speak. Do not break eye contact. Like sit there and look at each other and talk. And again, we gave the background for what we were bringing into the conversation because it was important, I think, in this moment, because we actually were talking about that with Rolando. And there was a lot of correction happening of like, Shanti was talking about, I forgot, I was saying that was frustrating. I was like, well, why didn't you just order it so you didn't have to go? But again, maybe that is a viable suggestion. But in that moment, there was no relief offered to Shanti. And so we're sitting not next to each other. We're sitting across from each other and we're using this thing as an example from this morning. And what happened next was really sad and shocking to me was that I was like making a joke because we were still like jokey. We were still ourselves, like, bringing levity to the situation. And I was like a little kid telling the teacher, she's looking away from me. She won't look at me. And Shanti burst into tears. And I won't talk for you. But why did that happen?
Well, for one, that's not anything that I've done before. Looking at someone, especially in the context, it's one thing when you like lovey-dovey with somebody and you feel connected and you feel open. It's a different kind of ask of you versus feeling, I get, maybe I didn't feel relieved of the guilt, the shame, the story that I have in my mind of when you are looking at me or what you see when you look at me. And it was just it felt very overwhelming and very intense and very uncomfortable. It didn't feel comfortable, and it made me feel away. I had to let it out.
What were you feeling? Do you know what you were feeling that was making you feel uncomfortable outside of like, I'm not in practice of this?
Just being seen, just looking at somebody and having them look at you. And I think, again, the story of having somebody look at you when you feel uncomfortable it's one thing if like if we were to do that right now, it'd be a completely different story. You know,
Mhm.
if they were to say look at each other, I don't think I wouldn't bust into tears, but to feel the discomfort and the 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 shame, the weakness that I felt in that moment, the raw just like vulnerability, and then have somebody look at you in that state and then feel unsure of what story what you're seeing, and not being in, composed to like have the illusion that I can even control that. Felt like I felt overwhelmed. Um,
Can you
and that was the way
if
that I emoted my
Mhm.
overwhelm and my discomfort.
Do you feel comfortable sharing what story you think I was telling? Like
Um,
what you mentioned the story that you were afraid that, or the story that you perceiving that is being, that I'm thinking, that I'm coming up with in my head.
um, just the fact that I was far more emotional than you were. Like you were far more composed, and I feel like that um yeah, just the weakness in that, of like, or the what is she crying for? Why is she the one that has um tears coming down her face? Like the what are you upset about? What do you have to be upset about in this? I think is probably the uh projection that I put onto you, that I probably feel in myself.
Hmm. So what I was feeling in that moment, I felt really sad um that you didn't, I felt like you didn't feel safe to be seen by me, and my immediate thought was, what have I done to make her not be able to cry in front of me? Or how, like, she seems in this moment terrified of like being, of making a mistake with me
Mhm.
and being human.
Mhm.
And I immediately started to think about, how do I fix that? Like what have I done to contribute to this? Or not even to contribute in that moment. Now it's to contribute because I've had a chance to think about it, where I was like, you know, it's not
Right.
just
Yeah,
me,
it's
it
not
ain't just
you.
me. But
Mhm.
in that moment is, what have I done to do this to her?
Mhm. Mhm.
And it was it made me sad because I was like, oh my God, if she can't do this, we're not as close as I thought we were at all. We're
Mhm.
not. And then I started to think, um, you know me. How can I fix it? How can I fix it? And I started to think about, well, maybe I need to show her more when I fuck up, and like be more open about that, so she knows that like where we make mistakes. But I also know that the part of it is that we had had numerous conversations leading up to that around the different balls that are in the air that sometimes get dropped. And so that's a very sensitive topic. Um yeah, but I wanted to fix it, and I just felt like a really bad friend. I felt like a
What
really bad business partner, but a really bad friend. I was like,
what
yo, what?
what why does it feel sad to not feel as to think, "Oh, we're not as close as I think we are."
Because you're
Because it
not safe with me. I feel like if you can't make a mistake with me, then I haven't provided you a safe space. And there is a lack of, to me, a lack of closeness. If we're defining our, for me, if I'm defining friendship, the safe space is
but you don't
paramount.
but you don't feel that way with me. So why would it, I guess my question is, if that's something that you don't feel, why is it more of a, why is the alarm with me doing it versus your own, like, I don't always feel safe with her. I don't always feel taken care of, or that I can, maybe your being your whole self is not revealing or messing up, but it's resting. You know, your version of that is like letting her take control. Why is why is that not an alarm or indication of like, oh, we're not as close as I think we are, because I can't be close to her in the way that we know is possible?
That's a good question. I think for me, so if I'm hearing you right, I think what you're saying is, to give context to the listeners, is that I shared with you that I don't feel safe in our business relationship, that I can trust you with certain things and that they're going to get done, whatever, right? And that's a deeply painful thing for me, and it hurts me. It's not just like a frustration, that it hurts me. I think, and you're like, well, why wouldn't that be an
The
indication?
indicator of we're not as close as I think we are, because, oh, she can't do this with me. Fuck my
Because I don't
actual
feel that way in
discomfort.
our personal. Yeah, I think it's because I don't ever feel like, I don't feel unsafe with you in our personal friendship. Like where I feel like I can, and I don't know if I don't think it's right. I'm just telling you how my brain is working. I don't think I necessarily am thinking about this the right way. But I think what I've done is compartmentalized. And I think in my heart of hearts, while it does hurt me, you know, when things kind of roll down the hill on me, I also, in my mind, to me, will tell myself like, she ain't trying to hurt me. Like there's no
Oh,
intention.
yeah.
And then I'm also like, well, that's the business stuff. She not gonna, if some shit goes down, she's gonna be in New York tomorrow to help hold me down. Like I trust her with my personal life. I trust her to want my well-being, like to uphold her support of my well-being, her support of me. And so I've compartmentalized that a bit. But for me, and I'm also able to tell you. So I feel like while I might feel frustrated, I don't withhold it, I don't think, from you. Like I don't think I've ever said it hurts me, because I don't know that I understood really how I was feeling until you took the break. And then it became clear of like, oh, with the distance, I was like, yo, I am really resentful and hurt by her. And I think I was just going and being like, oh, well, she doesn't mean it. Come on, let's go. So yeah, I think I feel safe enough to tell you the things that I'm feeling, and I don't think you feel safe enough to do that with me. And so I was like, I think I don't know. I'm not a good friend to her, because she should be able to do that. Even if we're working through it, she can't even say it to me. That's my warped rationale. Again, I don't know if it's right. Probably not.
We should take some of that to Rolando, because
We should. We're recording it.
I have
Thoughts?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what we were feeling in that moment. And just like y'all can hear, we're still working through stuff. So I'm like, yo, that was eye-opening to me. And I think that softened a lot of things.
The practice of relief being the go-to before correction.
Well, that's what I'm going to get into, is
that was a that was like, what the fuck?
That was when Rolando inserted himself and was asking you, like, you know, what are you feeling, Shanti, yada, 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 yada. And you were expressing the same thing you expressed. I feel shame. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like, you know, I should have done this. I should have done that, like whatever. And bringing up some of the stuff I said, like, why did she was like, you were like, I didn't even think I didn't even think in my head that I could deliver these things here and not have to go get it. Like it just
Mhm.
wasn't a thought.
Mhm.
And he looked at me and was like, how can you provide her with relief in this moment? And I swear to God, I will say my first thought was, what? How the fuck do I provide her with relief? I did. She could order it. That was what I was thinking in my head. And I didn't say that, but I was like, how do I provide her with relief? So
Mhm.
in my attempt in providing you with relief was to affirm you. No, the way that you're thinking about yourself is wrong. I see so much in you. I tell you all the time how confident you are. I this, I that. Like, you got to see it. And he stopped me. And he was like, this is something that I hear you do. And he was like, I think that maybe a love language of yours is words of affirmation. And that's a beautiful thing. But what you're not recognizing is even in this moment, you are correcting her.
Mm.
Her feelings are feelings of shame, feelings of inadequacy, not feeling like she let you down.
Mhm.
And she's triggered by things that come up for her about how she feels about herself. And you are not giving space for her to feel that way.
Mhm.
You're not providing relief. You're still correcting her, and you shouldn't feel that way. Even though
Mhm.
you're saying wonderful, nice things, there's no relief there. And he was saying, that blew my mind. That
Yeah.
was the biggest revelation for me, because I was like, well,
Mhm.
shit, what am I? That whole episode where I was yelling at you about Bet on Black, I was like, girl, you did that wrong. Like, that
It
wasn't
was
what you were
good
supposed to
though.
do.
That was good.
And
That
like, you pouring into her,
that
I'm like, I ain't provide her with any relief. I just corrected her the whole episode. So I was like, okay. So then I was stumped, and he had to do it. He was like, wow, Shanti, what you're feeling must be really overwhelming. What can I do to help you feel less overwhelmed? Like, what can I do in this moment where you just connect, instead of doing this thing where you correct? So I want to get into that. So what is the definitions of connect? Because I went into this on Webster's, and Webster had a little bit of a lackluster definition. It was like the act of connecting, the state of being
the
connected. And
fuck?
I was like,
The
it's
fuck would
not.
you mean?
I was like,
Connection is connecting, my nigga.
it's not giving. It's not giving. Not at all. And so I go back to, just for the sake of time, Rolando's definition of even more than connection, but relief. And that being that it is correction without that basically relief is correction without correction without relief is punishment. So then in my mind, relief is no correction, no punishment. It's just like you actually hearing the person, allowing them to feel how they feel, and like sympathizing and empathizing with them, like giving that space for a second. And that's really hard to do when you disagree with them too. Do you
Mm.
agree with that? When what they're experiencing, you're like, that's not what it is. And you want to defend or correct. Like, no, that's not
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
But it's
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
oh, first I got to take a beat and let you be human and feel how you feel. What?
And I think that's the part that was the most. It's awkward.
Yes.
It's everything counter what we in
Intuitive.
society. It's actually, I feel like it's it's counterintuitive. I think intuition is actually like a real attunement is like far more calm, far more slow. It's more feminine, where the correction I think that we just used to in society, you know, this is what you got to do. When you think of like even mansplaining or like men or what, this fucking stereotype that we put on men of like this, women are like, you're not listening to me, and men are like, no, I am. I'm telling you what you need to do. Like, you do
Yeah.
this, that, and the third. That is me helping you. The fuck. I feel like we all kind of have embody that in a way, and you want the relief is like agreement on the next course of action. What are we going to do
Mm.
differently? It's not sitting with like what is, which is like awkward because you're just like, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you feel
Yeah.
so much
That must
shame.
be hard.
It must be hard. Where do you feel it, girl?
Tell
How
me
often
about
do you
how you're
feel this?
feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like
like,
in this society that's moving so fast, who the fuck has time for that? Like, "Oh,
you
I'm
like, "Who are
sorry
you
that."
talking to?" You're like, "Oh, you weird. Get away from
And
me."
then and I remember him saying too, he looked at you and he said, "Now this is a lot of labor." Because he was in the moments where like that's I will be honest, in moments where I'm feeling frustrated with you, to take a beat and prioritize how you're feeling from this set of circumstances instead of being like, yo, this is also impacting me as well, sis, but you have to first deal with what's at hand. If you really love and care and want to connect with the person, that's hard. And that is the commitment. That is the commitment to the relationship. That is the love. That's the practice of it, where it's like, okay,
And then the trust that you're gonna have your moment as well, which is
right.
so counter to arguing, which is like, you said this thing, I'm a counterpoint this thing, then you're gonna say
Hmm.
this thing, and I'm a counter. So that whole form of communication, it fucked me up in so many ways because it's counter mothering. I
Hmm.
went back into the house. Every single thing that I said out of my mouth to my daughter was a correction.
Mm.
I did not, every single thing. Why'd you do it this? Put this there. Didn't I tell you to do? And I was just like, I was just like, I can't. I don't even know how. I don't even know how to do it. But, and then the consequence of being raised like that from a baby up into an adult, I was like, what is wrong with
Hmm.
all of us? We have so much, and it's still very foreign to me. I'm still like, I'm not sold on that. I'm not sure about that because how do you know?
Well,
It came up
this
with
is
us.
right. This is I was about to say episode. This is session 1. I think, and he definitely said there is space for correction though.
Mhm.
Correction is necessary. You have to get to correction, but
Mhm.
first the relief has to be offered. So there's a middle step that so many of us are missing, and it's crucial because it leads you to the solution. Because if you get to the correction and the person feels punished, they either will detach or they'll push back or what, like you don't get to a cohesive solution and a
Co-creation.
pathway forward, right?
Yeah, it's not co-creation because you're not connected. So like the power dynamic feels is fucked. Like, oh, this person, it was right, so they can correct, and you kind of have
Mhm.
to like, it's not
And you
co-creative.
also resist if you provide the relief, which is really hard. You then don't make so many assumptions. If I am more, and you always use this word, if I'm more oh, you always use it, now I lost it. What is
Energetic.
it? No.
That's the only word I know.
Curious. If
Uh,
I'm more curious about
yeah.
what you're feeling,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Then I have more understanding. I would, if I wouldn't have known why you were crying, I would have just thought, oh, she's fucking crying because she's embarrassed and she don't want to deal with the fact that like
Why is
this is a
she crying?
continuous thing.
Mhm.
Like this is not even why is she crying. I would have assumed why. She's embarrassed. She doesn't like feeling like this. Accountability's hard.
Mhm.
Let's get to a solution instead of like, no, these
But
are
also
all the
that was
other
part of
things
it.
coming. Right,
That wasn't wrong.
but also the other things are coming up, right? And so it's important, if you're in partnership with anybody, to know what those things are and to be able to hold them.
Well, when you and I had a moment, that sounds good, right? Sounds good.
Don't upset me.
But
We're
you
doing
and I
better.
had a moment on our second session. We're like, okay, everybody let out how they feel. We put the cards on the table. Rolando, I feel like, had a certain sense of the our relationship dynamic,
Mhm.
and so then we're going into the next session, and it was moving at a pace that you felt like, wait a minute now, again, this this relationship, I want to go back to this relationship dynamic because I don't think you guys really understand the labor, one, that's just labor intensive, two, and then the consequence of you taking on that labor. And so you kind of like disrupted the the operation and was like, no, I'm not feeling
Ready.
this.
I don't feel ready to move on to this
I don't
next
feel
thing
ready to move on.
with
I still got something to say. And Rolando was like, oh, well, Shanti, how are you going to relieve her of this? And
well, what was it for the listeners? What was the thing? The thing that I wanted to go over was every step that it takes to put a podcast together and to really talk about that in detail. Because in doing that, I was like, I don't know that all of these steps are always super clear. And in that moment, if I'm being honest, I needed it to be clear. The amount of labor that I think I had been shepherding for so long. And I felt like we were skipping over that. I was like, nah, this hasn't been addressed because it's the pain point for me. And it's also it's not about the labor. It's more about us skipping over it all the time and just naming it as this little thing and keeping going when it's like 80%.
The elephant in the room.
It's
It
the
is
80% for me of like,
yeah.
I feel like this is what hurts me the most is the skipping over that. And then go ahead. He was like,
even saying that now is clearer to me than before.
okay.
I didn't know that it was the skipping over and the dismissal of that I didn't pick that up in that meeting, that was what was also a pain point until you just said it now.
Okay.
So then Rolando was like, all right, bet, Shanti, relieve her of that. And I was like, I don't know how. Like, I don't know what I can say to do that.
That was powerful though.
I guess I don't know how. Why? What does relief feel like for you?
That wasn't all that was said. That was
I
your
don't remember.
initial thing. I know you
what
can't
else?
remember. That's why I'm like, that wasn't all that you said.
I might have said some shit, but I don't remember what I said.
Rolando said it, and you were like, "Huh, okay, yeah." And I don't know if you really took it in. So let's revisit. Is that Rolando said, Shanti, what I'm hearing, and Antoinette, Rolando, check it in. If I can put this into context, you tell me if I'm wrong. He's like, what I'm hearing is I have been doing the majority of the labor for a long time. It has gone, not unnoticed, but it hasn't been, acknowledged to the capacity really it hasn't been acknowledged. Furthermore, there have been things that have what did he say? Basically, there have been things that have led me to not trust you as much in our business relationship to get X, Y, and Z done. What can you do? And this is something that I'm still struggling with. I'm here with you. I want to move forward. I'm still struggling with this thing. How can you provide me with relief? And you said, I don't. You listened to it. You were quiet for a second. Like you were really thinking about it. You were like, I don't know. And I think that was really powerful for me because the way you said it, it confirmed to me that none of this is on purpose. That you're not just, I don't care. She got it. It's going to get done. It's not just like, fuck it. I don't care. It's going to be handled. It was like and then you said, I don't know. And he said, okay. And you worked through that. And then you said, but I'm willing to work to figure it out. And I think that was the thing that provided me the most relief of like, okay, the intention is there. You know, like
Mhm.
I don't want you to feel like this. I acknowledge the amount of work. I see it. I acknowledge that this is painful for you. Um and there was no like in the past, it's been, but I can't do anything more. I have this going on. I'm overwhelmed. I'm this, I'm that, without the acknowledgement of like,
Mhm.
this is a thing for you.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
this is really hard. And you've been juggling. It's
Mhm.
been more like, I need to defend my actions, or I need to make sure that I'm not a bad person, instead of like, this is how you feel. And I think
Mhm.
that's what I don't do for you either.
Mhm.
So I think you just acknowledging, like, no, this is a thing. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean, Shanti, that when I say you're, like, it doesn't mean me, Shanti, I'm bad. Like, it's a thing. And it's
Mhm.
been a thing for a long time, and it's a lot.
Mhm.
And I don't know how to fix it, but I want to. To
Mhm.
me, that felt different than anything else that we've discussed. So I would, I don't want to correct you, but I would want you to give yourself a little more credit there, because it might not have felt like, oh,
It's all coming back to me now. I
I hate
forgot.
you.
Now,
I
now,
gotta
for real,
go.
now it's all
I
coming back.
gotta
It is. It's all coming
go.
back. It's all coming back. It is. It is. It all. It.
Like, it was much more that the
Yeah, there
initial
was a lot
thing
of
was,
stuff
I
that.
don't know, but
Yeah,
there was so
there was
much
a
more
lot
that you
more that
said.
was said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want
Okay.
to talk about some ways that just a couple examples, and then we can be done and leave with some points to ponder. But we talked about this one, like, if you're feeling guilt, if you're feeling shame, um, instead, I need to avoid my initial thought to combat that shame with all the ways in which you're wonderful, and or combat my initial thought to give you a solution of like, okay, next time do it like this, without actually saying, I'm sense, I feel like you need a beat. Do we need to talk? What are you feeling? I'm sensing that you might be stressed out in this moment. I'm sensing you might be nervous about whatever. Like, do we need to take a beat to just like talk? And I think that would be really powerful, because there are definitely times when I sense it. You don't always say anything, but I can sense it. And so even me being like, hey, how we
But
feeling here?
is that the mode, or is it like you saying how you felt? That confuses me. Like,
Hmm.
why would it be that versus you, because you felt a way. It would just be us saying how we felt, and then
Yeah,
you're hearing me out versus me saying I always go back to what we talked about before in this conscious coupling, is that we just have to be impeccably honest, and
avoid.
not providing space for the other person to be impeccably honest, but also you being like,
I'm frustrated right now.
I'm frustrated in this moment. And you do. Oftentimes you do. Oftentimes it comes up in other ways that you think you're suppressing it, but you absolutely, you're
It's
not.
coming through
Yeah,
energetically.
it's coming through in
Yeah.
other ways.
So maybe while we're still in practice of speaking up, when we see each other suppressing something and we sense that, we both can help each
We
other
say
out.
pineapples or something, like, or like, girl, we just look
Pineapples
at
is
each other.
annoying. You're annoying.
Because it was even like awkward to hug, it was just kind of like, oh, hey,
I didn't feel awkward to her. Oh, when you got there, when you
yeah.
arrived?
And it was just kind of like, hey, it wasn't rude, but it just wasn't like, it was tight. It was tight.
Yeah.
It wasn't
It
when it
wasn't
was
us.
just, no, it was just like,
Yeah.
oh,
All right. Well, you're adding on to the ways that I could also provide myself relief. So this is very good. Thank you. Well, I have here, if Shanti is expressing disappointment in herself, obviously, I've already said that a million times, that I won't just combat what you're feeling and come at you with a whole bunch of affirmations. And this was a big one. We didn't really touch on this, but we need to in our next session with him, or whenever. If Shanti does something, if you do, like, you're like, I got this, I'm gonna do this. You do it, and it's not the way that like I would do it, or there's something missing, or whatever the case is, in that fucking moment, let it go, internet. Let it go. And that's something that I have to practice. If you ain't like it, then if you want to add a caption, put the fucking caption on there, girl, and move on to the next motherfucking thing. If it's reoccurring, fine. We got to talk about an SOP. Cool. But like the little things, let it go. And so that will be big for me as my hands tremble as I say that. Let it go.
I mean, to that point, is that relief? I don't know. I think we're confused in that.
Well, I think that I need
think
to
that's
provide
just
myself with some relief of like, it's not the end of the world. What are you so like? For me, he mentioned that. It might not be relief for you, but he mentioned that for me. And I think by me not nitpicking, it might provide you with a little bit of relief because some of this stuff is not worth it.
I
Like,
think I have to tell you that because that erodes a lot. It's like,
okay.
oh, okay. That erodes rather than saying like, can you not do that? Or please don't go and change that? Or why, when I did this one thing, you erased it and started something else? Like, why? You know, because that fucks. That's something that I will just let go in a way that I think I'm letting it go, but it's not.
But
it's
you're not.
eroding something else.
Yeah. And I think that creates opportunity for me to explain the why. It's probably a mandatory from a ad or some old dumb shit that I'm thinking about, or it could be me just being me and being annoying. But I would sometimes it's like the necessary things. So yeah, more communication. I'm gonna say this again. Relief feels like acknowledgement without guilt, shame, and punishment. It's correction as well without the guilt, shame, and punishment. Oh boy. Gotta do all of that. It's very weird. But that's it. It's very weird.
It's not
It doesn't
giving
sound weird, but
capitalist
it's just not
productivity. It's not. It's counter because we just sit there like, he's like, it's very quiet. Sometimes it's very quiet. Sometimes it's very slow. And I was like childish.
Provide her with relief. I want to be like,
sorry.
All right. I'm like, bitch, stop crying. We good. What's wrong with you? That's my relief. Bitch, why is you crying like that? You just looking at me. Relax. Shit. You drawling right now. That's what I wanted to say. Yo, you fucking drawling. Chill out.
Yeah, don't do that. That'd have been bad.
You'd be like, okay, let's take a pause. Let's talk about this. All right, well, we'll let y'all know how it keeps going.
All right. Well, thank y'all for listening, and we'll see you next week.
As you can tell, we still have not figured out how to end the episode. All right. Oh, wait, what do we say? Peace to the gods.
Old and new.
Bye.